Okay, we're back at it already. I've opened up the Wine KMC data straight up from the author's website in the description. I've clicked over to the matrix tab or the matrix sheet in the Excel file. We're just going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save this as a CSV file. If I can find that, comma separated values. I just go to your sections folder, call it winekmc.csv, and I'll put 4R in the file name. Click Save. And this is only going to save the active sheet because that's how CSV files work. So I will save the active sheet. Click Continue. And I will close this out. Don't save. You can see our file here from earlier. I'm going to open up that CSV file. Let's see here. Where is that? Wine KMC for R. Just a quick little preview. You can see it's the exact same thing we've been looking at. So we're going to open this file up in R. So let me get info for that so we can get the directory of that file. I'm going to copy and paste that for the working directory. Open up R, and I'm going to create a data frame. Let's call it wine data, and to wine data we will assign a read.csv, and we will open parentheses and paste that directory in, and then I will go back and paste in the name of the file. Again, if you're on a PC, you're going to have to right click on the file and go to properties, or you can just type it in manually. Oops, I typed in read.csv wrong. Let me put my V there. Okay, now we should have this wine data, and if I put little brackets here, it's going to allow me to look at whatever rows and columns I specify. So let's say we'll just look at all the rows, so I can leave that blank, put a comma, and let's look at, say, columns 1 through, I don't know, 13, because, well, it's 13's unlikely. Let's do 14. Okay, we can see here the data, and it looks a lot like it did in Microsoft Excel. Notice that in Excel we had blank spaces, and here we have these NAs. So we have to do something about that. So we need to select each cell that has an NA, or not applicable, whatever that stands for, and we want to change those all to zeros. So in order to select all the cells that have an NA in it, we type in wine data, we put our little brackets here, we type in is.na, there's a specific function for this, and it's called is.na, wine data. So we've selected this, actually this little expression here selects all of the cells that have an NA, and to each of those cells we want to assign a 0. Click enter, and now if we look at our data again, all of those NAs have turned magically into zeros. Okay, so the way we ran through our k-means clustering example in Excel, we used data that was set up it wasn't set up in a way that you would actually have your data set up for pretty much any type of analysis. Remember, in the previous module, I showed you something called the standard data matrix, and usually your units of analysis are going to be your rows. And right now, our units of analysis, our customers, are represented as columns. So we want our columns to turn into rows. So we want to know the number of columns. There's a function for that, and that's incol in R. We say we have 107 columns. So we'll create a new data frame where now we have, we'll call it winedata.transposed, and transposed just means you sort of turned the columns into rows. You sort of shifted the matrix or the data frame around. So the function to transpose in R is T, and we will say wine data, and we want to get all of the current rows transposed, but we're only interested in certain columns. We don't want this metadata in here. So let's see here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first 7 columns we don't care about. We only want columns 8 through 107. And now we have 2 data frames, WINE_data and WINE_data.transposed. So if we take a look at WINE_data.transposed, and let's say we look at the first 10 rows and the first 10 columns, just to see what that looks like. And now you can see each customer gets their row, and we have our zeros and ones, so our data setup for our k-means clustering in R is complete.